Hello and welcome to Granada Reports, live with the latest across the northwest.
Hello, on the programme this evening.
Why did you put the phone down on me?
It's Ken, you know.
The love triangle that gripped the nation, memories and tributes to Johnny Briggs, the Cockney who graced the cobbles of Coronation Street as Mike Baldwin for 30 years.
Whenever you see a scene with Johnny Briggs in, your eyes just automatically go to Johnny.
Going It Alone, the campaign to make sure all young people being treated for cancer have a hand to hold.
Cash crisis, how you can help keep the Northwest Air Ambulance flying.
And who'd have thought this was on the cards, how the pandemic's forced the Fylde Coast fortune-telling experts to go online.
First, and for 30 years, he was the Cockney on the cobbles of Coronation Street and at the heart of some of the show's most famous storylines.
But tonight, the Corrie family and fans are mourning a man who was very much one of their own, the great Johnny Briggs, who played Mike Baldwin.
He died aged 85 after a long illness, having left the show 15 years ago. In a moment, we'll hear from one of his fellow cast members, Anthony Cotton, about Johnny Briggs, the actor, colleague and friend.
First, though, our correspondent, Robert Smith, looks back at the life of a man who graced the small screen and film for the best part of 60 years.
Anyone serving here? You're monopolising the place.
You're really enjoying this, aren't you?
Hey, as a matter of fact, I am. Not this one.
Johnny Briggs made every move, word and scene count in one of soap's fiercest rivalries, and all over one woman.
I once wanted you to leave Ken.
I said I didn't want to talk about
But
that.
you wouldn't, why not, eh? Why did you put the phone down on me?
It's Ken, he knows.
The love triangle between Mike Baldwin, Deirdre and Ken captivated millions of Coronation Street viewers.
They really were. They really were. He was incredible. Whenever you see a scene with Johnny Briggs in, your eyes just automatically go to Johnny.
How are you finding the job?
Oh, yeah, OK, it's good.
And I loved working with Johnny because you learnt so much just watching him. He was quite an incredible actor and he was a lovely, lovely person.
I'm in charge of all the layabouts. I own the place.
Mr. Baldwin.
Briggs' debut in 1976 followed years on stage and screen since the age of 12. His catalogue of work, his life experience, a perfect fit for the part.
He knew exactly who Mike Baldwin was. I think he'd grown up with people like that. And people talk about people having a twinkle in their eye. Johnny had a glint in his eye. You know, there was a little bit of menace in the way that he portrayed Mike Baldwin, which came across on screen. And I think that's what made him so irresistible to the women of Coronation Street.
I love you, Mrs. Baldwin.
That portrayal of a tangled and eventful love life played out in living rooms worldwide for 30 years.
I haven't got a key.
I'll get you to my place. Get you in.
His final storyline showed Mike's decline through Alzheimer's and ended in the arms of his character's nemesis.
It doesn't look too good if you could have it, please.
Co-star William Roach paid tribute, saying Mike Baldwin and Ken Barlow were arch-enemies for many years, but as an actor, Johnny was impeccable, always good, and I was so fortunate to have worked with him. He was a strong character who will be greatly missed. I send my love to Johnny on his journey and to all those who are bound to miss him. Love you, Johnny.
What a right pair we are, eh?
The actor left the cobbles in 2006. Months later, he was made an MBE, a man who didn't see himself as a star, but rather those around him.
What I'm going to miss most, quite honestly, is the cast and the crew. It's like one enormous family. I should be keeping in touch with most of them, really. Definitely keep in touch with Will Roach, because I want to play golf with him and take some money off him.
Johnny Briggs, who's died at the age of 85. Well, he played one of the great characters and was adored by the cast.
A colleague and friend, Anthony Cotton, shared his memories with us a short time ago.
He was such a huge character that you were always aware that you were in a scene with him. And I know that sounds a bit silly, but I mean it. You were always aware when he was on screen, and therefore when you were doing a scene with him, you were really aware that he was in the room. You know, he's one of those iconic characters like Fred Elliott, like Dev. I feel the same about Jimmy. I know when I'm in a scene with Jimmy, and being in a scene with Johnny was the same. He he had an extra presence about him that that I think is part of the reason he's so fondly remembered. And when somebody like that is no longer around, you're aware of the gap that they leave.
He was an iconic character, as you say. Can you remember the first time you met him, what that was like?
Well, yes, I can, Mr. Baldwin. He was always Mr. Baldwin because I worked in the factory, and he always had a bottle in the filing cabinet. I remember being in the office, Mr. Baldwin's office, for this first time, and I think I was being shouted at. I think I was being told off.
He had a lovable charm, but his antics on screen got him into trouble sometimes, didn't he? I heard a story about a cabbie in London refusing to pick him up until he started to treat his wife Alma better. Did this happen a lot with him?
Well, do you know what? He did play a rogue. I mean, he was a bit of a swine at times. Well, a lot of a swine at times. But that was the genius of him, the man playing him. You were somehow always on his side. It's a very rare talent, that, to play somebody that's a bit of a get, but the audience is with you and kind of at least has an understanding of why they are like that. And that's because of nothing other than Johnny Briggs, the man, was so charming. And he was absolutely that. And, he wasn't very tall. I mean, he'd probably kill me for saying that. But he wasn't very tall, but yet he was a massive character.
I used to see him at the Old School, the pub across the road from Granada.
Hey, and he would, with the days.
And he would always be having a laugh. And you're right.
He stood at the end of the bar or in that big chair.
And he had that twinkle in his eye, didn't he?
And he did. I mean, I know a lot of people say that, that phrase is bandied about, somebody was a cheeky charmer and had a glint in his eye. But he really did. And if you never knew Johnny, it's really hard to describe why, but he used to just say hello and he'd be like, hello. Amazing. We all love the Old School. I think we probably love the Old School a little bit too much, to be honest.
Anthony, great to chat. Great to get your thoughts on Johnny. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Some lovely, lovely memories there. Next tonight, we meet two young women who had to face cancer alone because of coronavirus restrictions. Like many others, they had to attend appointments and treatments by themselves.
Two leading cancer charities say some teenagers are having to hear they've got the disease and then go through treatment without any family or friends with them.
So they've launched a campaign to make sure that even in a pandemic, all young people have a hand to hold. Sarah Rogers has more.
My mum had to drive me on the day that I was admitted for the treatment and just leave me at the door.
When I was in hospital for 3 weeks, I wasn't allowed out of my room. It was just sort of me and the nurses.
Just two examples of what it's like for a young person to go through cancer alone. Michaela Forrester recently underwent treatment for Hodgkin lymphoma, while Sophie Mulligan travelled from Liverpool to Manchester's Christie Hospital for leukaemia treatment.
I've got this massive suitcase and I'm trying to lug that into the hospital. I was saying to the staff on the door, is there no way my mum can just come in? And they were saying, I'm so sorry. So I just had to literally turn around and wave. And that was the last time that I seen my mum then until I was discharged again.
COVID restrictions, of course, meant that friends and family weren't allowed to appointments or hospital. But charities, the Teenage Cancer Trust and Click Sargent, have launched the Hand to Hold campaign calling for a change so that young people don't have to face cancer alone.
So that can be that they've been told the news that they've got cancer all by themselves. Taking in that information is a real challenge for anyone, but for a young person aged 18 to 24 it can be a massive challenge and struggle.
There were a couple of times when things were really overwhelming, when I didn't really understand what was going on because I was so unwell, and I just wanted my mum to sort of explain everything to me in simple terms and then give me a big hug.
The Department of Health told us that our current guidance recommends that patients can be accompanied where appropriate and necessary, providing it happens in a COVID-secure way.
But they say that that is part of their guidance already.
But it doesn't recognise those unique needs of young people with cancer. And we're hearing stories day by day of young people still experiencing cancer alone.
What difference do you think it would have made to you? I was really afraid and I was thinking, I'm in so much pain. I just want someone here with me to comfort me. And the nurses, they are great. They're literally heroes, but
they're not your mum.
Exactly, they're not your mum. You can't underestimate how tough cancer treatment really is, and your family are your support network.
It's hoped that by highlighting the issue, all young people with cancer will get the opportunity to be accompanied where it's safe to do so. And some good news, both of the young women we featured today are now in remission. Sarah Rogers, ITV News.
Well, that is great news. And if Sarah's story has touched you or someone you know, there's an article on our website with details of the Hand to Hold campaign. Just go to itv.com/Granada to take a look.
More of the day's news now, and Lancashire Police say they were called to more than 600 COVID-related incidents over the weekend. The force said they dealt with house parties, an open gym and people travelling long distances. Saturday had one of the highest number of incidents reported over a 24-hour period. And Merseyside Police turned 100 cars away from Formby Beach, some from as far afield as Leeds.
The famous Ford brand will return to Halewood in Merseyside in a move that will secure hundreds of jobs. The company, which once owned their Halewood car factory, has taken full ownership of a neighbouring transmissions plant. The deal's been touted as a show of confidence in UK car manufacturing amid worries over the future of the Vauxhall plant in Ellesmere Port.
Next, it's a life-saving service that saved many thousands of people in our region from either dying or suffering even more severe injuries.
You may not know that the North West Air Ambulance is a charity totally dependent on donations from the public, but those donations have fallen away massively in the pandemic.
The service fly 3 helicopters in our region and they want that to continue long into the future, so they've launched a new appeal for help.
We'll hear from the Chief Executive of the North West Air Ambulance after this report from our correspondent, Ashley Derricott.
It is effectively the 4th emergency service, getting life-saving care to those who need it the quickest. Yet unlike the other 3 main emergency responders, North West Air Ambulance relies entirely on voluntary fundraising. Similar to other charities, its revenues have been hit hard by the pandemic. NWAA estimates losing out by around £70,000 every month since the first lockdown. That's a significant proportion of the £9.5 million it costs to keep the service airborne annually. Some 2,500 missions are flown each year, ferrying patients to hospital or going wherever the need is required. Over 2 decades, the care being offered has become increasingly specialised. This is just a drill, as a crew practices providing a blood transfusion by the roadside. One of the techniques that will result in saving even more lives. Serving a population of 8 million and growing, the need for what they do continues to be widely recognised. Ashley Derricott, ITV News.
Well, I spoke to Heather Arrowsmith, the Chief Executive of North West Air Ambulance. She told me just how much the charity has lost over the course of the last year.
Oh, well, we've lost vital funds over the pandemic. We've lost around 2 million of the 9.6 million it cost us to keep the service operational and fly to save lives and bring the hospital to the patient. So it's been, like most charities, we've not been exempt, but the continued impact of the pandemic means that our income does remain, sadly, in decline.
So how would you describe the state of the charity right now? Is this an emergency situation?
I think that we are in a situation where we need now to ask the public for their help. You know, we're extremely grateful to all of our supporters that have, been very loyal and dedicated to us for the last 21 years, and specifically during the pandemic. But it has to be said that with a deficit in terms of income, as I've just described, we now need the public's help more than ever.
Is there a concern now that you may be forced to ground one of your helicopters? Because at the moment, there are 3 helicopters that fly.
Yeah, that's not something that we're considering at this point in time. We believe that the public, who have absolutely been there for us for the last 21 years, will want to keep this life-saving service operational day after day. So we don't see that happening absolutely at all at this moment in time.
And in terms of funding, have you been able to get any government support to fill that gap?
not to fill that gap. As I said, we are a charity, and I think the issue is most people don't realise that North West Air Ambulance is a charity. In fact, most patients don't realise that it is a charity, they tell me, until they've needed us. And then, of course, they become fantastically loyal, dedicated supporters. But we are, in fact, a charity and receive no government funding. Everything that we receive is from the generosity of the fantastic people across the communities in the North West, as well as our corporate partners.
And what effect is all of this having on your crews? Their job is to go out every day to save lives, and they've got this hanging over them.
The crews are incredible. We couldn't wish for a better crew. They continually put their lives at risk throughout the pandemic and go the extra mile. And I think they are a real credit to the kind of life-saving work that we do day in, day out, irrespective of pandemics or anything.
Yeah, and just finally, Heather, what is your message to viewers this evening? How can people get involved? How can people get stuck in? How can people help to raise some funds for your charity?
Go now to our website and look at how to get involved. All the details are there about our emergency appeal at our website, nwa.net.
Heather Arrowsmith, really great to chat with you this evening. Wishing you and your team at the service there the very best. Thank you.
Many thanks.
They are a vital emergency service, aren't they?
Absolutely.
Dependent on donations.
Do great work all the time.
Yeah, and you remember, you may never know when you might need those flying medics in the sky.
Yeah, still to come on the programme tonight.
One of the absolute standout items in the auction is this.
More than 70 years of memories going under the hammer from Liverpool's former Melwood training ground.
And I don't know about anybody else, but I'm dying for a good old chat and a spot of lunch with one or two of my mates. But before we're allowed to do that, at least the weather over the past few days has been an absolute tonic. Not much to look at in the skies above the northwest, apart from blue sky over the last few days. But with those calm conditions, light winds, dry and clear and mild weather conditions, we've seen signs of spring. Of course, today is the first day of the meteorological spring. But what about the weather for the first week of March? Full forecast a little later on.
Now here's a question for you. What do Morecambe and Wise, Sir Tom Jones, Dame Vera Lynn, Michael Parkinson, Simon Cowell and Victoria Wood all have in common?
Yeah, that is a mix of talents, and believe it or not, they've all had their fortunes told by the Petulengro family in their famous seafront booths in Blackpool.
But that's all about to change. The Romany psychics are embracing the power of online with virtual readings during the pandemic and for those who can't visit.
Tim Scott went to Blackpool for a glimpse of the future for the 100-year-old business.
She's been telling fortunes in Blackpool for over 40 years. Her clients include stars and celebrities. But with the pandemic decimating Sarah Petulengro's business in the Pleasure Beach, she's about to start fortune telling online.
So that there's no disturbance. It's gone off.
Are we back on?
Unsurprisingly, the new technology did play up a little during our Zoom call, with me socially distanced outside her booth. Thankfully, though, we had a camera operator as well. Does doing what you do online make things harder for you? Are there special challenges for reading fortunes through a computer screen?
Well, actually, it is very challenging, but there's various ways you can get round it. You know, with your palms, it's the lines on your hands. And what I do, I take a picture of the client's palm, print it out so that I can see a clearer picture.
Look into the future then, Sarah, as you do for a living, are we going to have Blackpool back up and running later this year or not?
Well, it just depends. If everybody's sensible, I think, you know, there's a very strong possibility. And when we do open, it is going to be a very, very good year.
And one more question that's very close to my heart, Sarah.
Are Liverpool going to finish top four?
Who's Liverpool?
While it's great that Sarah's adapted her business and gone online, the rest of the pleasure beach here is very much still locked down and deserted. But with restrictions due to ease in the coming weeks and months, it's hoped that this place and the whole of Blackpool will soon get back to what they do best, welcoming those tourists here for summer. Tim Scott, ITV News, Blackpool.
She's certainly canny, isn't she?
She really is.
She's got the gags.
I don't know about you, Elaine, but I'm getting a feeling, I'm getting a sense. I'm sensing a glorious few days of weather ahead.
Yes.
Am I right?
Let's hope so. Here's Kerry.
Ellie! Right, that's crack on.
ITV Granada weather, sponsored by United Utilities. Water for the North West.
Hello, a very good evening to you. We really have done very well again weather-wise across the northwest today. Not everybody has seen sunshine across the UK. This was this morning looking over Bolton towards Manchester. Even that low cloud creating a beautiful picture, and as you can see, plenty of clear spells above the low-lying mist and fog first thing this morning. So a good dose of sunshine, perfect for a morning walk with or without the dog. Granada.weather@itv.com. So mostly dry as we head into the next couple of days, but there will be more in the way of mist and fog, I think, and then it turns colder and clearer as we head towards the weekend. We lose the high pressure, I think, as we head through into tomorrow and Wednesday. Could introduce a few showers midweek, and then a very weak system on Thursday sinking south brings back the high pressure, but with colder and clearer conditions Friday into the weekend. So overnight tonight we start off dry, clear, cold, frosty with light winds, but as you can see, the cloud starts to build a little into the early hours. So it's a mixture of frosty conditions, hill fog and some low-lying mist and fog towards dawn. So definitely a greyer start tomorrow, I think, compared to this morning's picture, 6:58 and 5:50. So a chilly start under any clearer skies tomorrow. There might be a little bit of hill fog, but also a lot of low cloud around, and that will be slower to clear, I think, compared to this morning. But we are expecting some bright, if not sunny spells, and it's mostly dry. Temperatures perhaps at the average rather than mild, and just a light breeze from a southeasterly direction. Bit more cloud once more as we head through into the early part of Friday, and the risk of some showers filtering in from the south and the west. Highs of around 8 or 9, just about the average, but we look to the colder, clearer conditions after Thursday afternoon.
Come on, next job. ITV Granada weather, sponsored by United Utilities.
Well, I can predict that Kerry always gives us the best pictures. They're fabulous. Now, that's just about it for tonight. But we asked you for your psychic readings and if any of them came true.
Yeah, my favourite tweet of the day, this one from Caroline Humes from Liverpool. She says, years ago, they told me I would have a large family and live in the country with my animals and children. I live in a city centre apartment, don't have children, and wouldn't trust myself to look after a goldfish. I think my aura must have been broken that day.
Goldfish are quite hard to look after. And here's another one. Frank Shatliff says 5 numbers from the Euro lottery tomorrow would do very nicely. But if you win, will you keep watching tomorrow? Let's hope so. Enjoy your evening. Bye-bye.
See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.